Okay, so everybody coming back to new era of fantasy football. This is the newsletter for week two. We're going to try to streamline this as much as possible for your enjoyment. We know that everybody's not looking to, spend hours and hours on end of data and conversation. But to that point, we want to make things, interesting and always try to switch things up, give you guys some new information. So, with that being said, we're going to do a quick recap of last week's games. Um, First up, we had the Riddler versus the Bad News Bears. That was the preview that we did last week. That was the game of the week. And I think that Raph just pulled away. I mean, Ridley, McCaffrey, and Jackson, hard to beat when those three guys are giving you roughly 100 points. But Gene had nothing to hang his head about. He put up basically a buck 50 with Hopkins and Melvin Gordon. It's just that he just had more horsepower, and that's what it comes down to sometimes. You play these games, you put up a buck 50, would have beat anybody else, but you run up against a buzzsaw, and that's what happened. So, Gene, don't hang your head, just regroup for next week. You had Mars coming out party, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air versus It's a Breeze. As we saw on the board on Sunday, Marvin made no no little mention out of the fact that he was going to take Plunk down, and true to his word, he came out there and he rocked them basically between Edwards and Thielen. Marvin hit home runs right across the board, put up a buck 60. I believe that was the second highest score of the week. Plunker, nothing much to see there. I mean, Breeze, he did not much to see there. So good job, Marv. Plunk, better luck next time. Next up, we have Hit 'em where it hurts versus Watless. Now that was a very interesting game. I think we all sort of slept on it in the beginning, just like, all right, Ricky. Even Scott Hanson is telling Ricky to wake up. But yeah, Raph, he called it out. He called it out, and he was right. I mean, Devontae Adams, Cam Newton, Chris Carson. Could this be the beginning of a strong run for Ricky? I mean, you never know. If Ricky is awake, I can tell you this: like, the dude knows how to get it done. Like, he's a strong competitor. He's no slouch. It's just a matter of Rick, digging his feet in the dirt. But once his feet are in the dirt, I mean, he's lethal. So pulled the upset. Good job, Rick. Vern, just hit the reset button on that. Still think you have a very strong team. I just think on their real teams, those guys have some things to figure out. Next up, 100 Proof versus Baskin Dobbins. Romel got that dub. And, again, Romel will never lack for knowing how to put in a starting lineup. And again, true to form, his aces did what they do. Jacobs, Deshaun Watson, and Julio Jones, looking at what they put up, it's looking like roughly 95, 96 points, give or take. Again, just like Raph, when you got your three horses putting up 100, it's hard, man, for people to overcome that. And true to form, he put up a buck 50. So good job, Plunk. Brett, as I look at your top three performers, I see Mahomes, Andrews, and Henry. What's missing here? Well, a wide receiver. Again, I think that's going to be a thorn in your side. So, Brett, you got some things to work out. And, I get it why you wouldn't have put Dobbins in last week, but you got him. You spent the money on him. Hey, I mean, you gotta set your own lineup. But hey, you got him. You should think about using them. Last up was my game versus Jeremy. I'm going to give a big nothing to see here for both teams. I think Jeremy's team just underperformed. I mean, he has studs. They just didn't do what he needed them to do. I think my team this is pretty much going to be the lay of the land. Like, if I can catch people on a down week, then I think I got a good chance until I can figure out my lineup or certain positions. And if somebody, a heavyweight is coming in, then it's like I'm going to run and duck for cover. So, like I said on the board, I'm going to take a dub. I'm not going to leave it on the table. But I really don't think this is indicative of either one of these teams' overall ability or standings this season. So with that being said, we're going to go on to the power rankings.
All right, so basically for the power rankings, I mean, I think the precursor is you have, you got your studs and then you have your all-world talents, and I think that's what separates basically the two tiers and the two class of teams here. So we'll start with with number 10, you know, Plunk. I think we're just gonna call it like we see it. I think, you know, it was kind of underwhelming. I think there's, you know, kind of like a lot of holes you got to fill here. You put up a $126, and pretty much your starting lineup did what they needed to do, and you got a $126. I think, you know, I think there's more that can be done here. So you're racking in number 10. Number 9, Brett. AC, I think you called it. I think, you know, you put all your eggs in that basket. I think, you know, this is why what happens at the draft is important, and roster management. You know, you're in a situation now where you're probably going to have to sit one of your stud running backs, and you're going to lose out on those points at the expense of your wide receiver position. So until he fixes that, I don't see him moving up that much. Number 7, unfortunately, AC, you know, I think that's where you belong.
No, I'm at the 8.
Sorry, 10, 9, 8. Sorry, at the 8 spot. You know, $129. You know, like I said, it was kind of nothing to see here. You know, you gonna be scrapping it all season long. But you know what? Listen, if everybody can do it, you can, man. Work the wire, do what you got to do, bro.
Listen, man, Rocky did not go to a gym to be trained. Rocky was off the streets, man. So.
Bro, listen, chase the chicken, bro. Chase the chicken. Number 7, Ricky. Ricky, you know, like I said, was this just a week 1 outlier? Maybe we don't know, but I think if this is a sign of the potential your team has, then I think you're going to keep climbing up these ranks if your team can continue to perform. Number 6, Germ. You got hit by the injury bug this week, but you know how much of that is serious remains to be seen. You did pick up some free agents last minute. I think that plays to your favor, so we'll see how that plays out. Number 5, Romel. Now this is where we kind of start separating the studs from your all-world talents. You know, your studs come in. Like I said, you put up 100 points among 3 people. It's hard to beat that. You know, your 150 is a winning score every week. I think you're capable of doing that. You're cashing in from week 1. You know, Hilaire is looking as good as advertising that offense. You know, I think, you know, you put up a $160. I think, like I said, I think your team's on the come up, young, hungry. Coming in at number 3, we got Vern. Vern, I'm sorry you took the L. Actually, I'm not sorry you took the L. Let me repeat that. But I think your team is strong, man. So on paper, there's no reason why you can't bounce back. You just take this one on the chin. Gene's coming in number 2. You know, he did lose to me last week, but like I said, there's not much you can do when you're scoring a $180. I definitely think he's still kind of one of, you know, between you and him, between Vernon and Gene, you guys are top 3. The top 3 I think are interchangeable. And then I'm at the top because I'm the champ and I still haven't lost. So those are your
come on, man. Like, why are we doing these videos, man? Try to be conscious of the third wall, Raph. Goodness, great. You beat me because you lost to me. How about Gene lost to the Riddler? How about that? Good. Third wall, man. Third wall.
No one beats the Riddler.
No one beats the Riddler. Yeah, so the Riddler came in strong this week, and yeah, I think, you know, y'all gonna have a problem this year. But those are your power rankings, fellas.
Good job, man. Good job. Good job.
No doubt. So that sends us into this week's matchups. We got a lot to look forward to. So we'll kick it right off while Sunday 1:00 games. We're going to have first up Marv and Aaron, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air versus the Ghostface Killers. Right now, the projections are pretty tight, but I think there's a lot of smoke to those projections. So when you kind of dig in with last week's Marvin's performance, I don't feel that that's going to be an outlier. I think that he has a team that can truly rise to the top of the rankings, both in power rankings, but just as a real threat, as a contender. So Aaron Jones looks like he's going to be the running back. It doesn't seem like, you know, he's going to be casted aside. We all saw what the rookie did, what Edward Hilaire did last week, and I think that's going to continue. I think with that offense, he's going to see a lot of light boxes, so expect good production from him. Thielen is back. I predicted that. I felt like this was going to be a comeback year for Thielen, and he's shown up. So really, the only weaknesses that Marvin has is in his tight end spot. Even with Kareem Hunt in the flex, I watched that game, and there was a quick hook for Chubbs. So very easily with the new coach, Kareem Hunt can get a lot more burn than was expected. And then Ben Roethlisberger is holding it down at that QB spot. We saw what he did Monday night. Now, granted, not every defense is going to be as porous as the New York Giants. Sorry, Raph. But I still expect Big Ben to be Big Ben. So with that being said, there's still even more potential on his bench for him to kind of fill in some spots. At that tight end spot, he had Noah Fant, who had a great Monday night. So very easily he can go in and fill in for that. And you also have Will Fuller that can also tighten up if he feels like he needs to pull A.J. Brown out of that lineup and let him sit for a bit. So I feel like Marvin has a full lineup that he can put in. I think with Aaron, the panic button is now he can let go of that. Ronald Jones is the running back for Tampa Bay for now, and that's all he needs to know. So right now, if you look at Dak Prescott, his performance along with Ezekiel Elliott, and them focusing in on Ezekiel as the main cog for that wheel, I think both of those guys are going to be very productive. So all Ronald Jones has to do is just kind of hold his weight. We saw Juju Smith turn out to be what we all thought he could be. So now it's the same thing for Chris Godwin. Can Chris Godwin kind of just steady the ship, just get his 6 catches for 80 yards? And then Hayden Hurst, that's kind of a bit of a gamble. So that's going to be a weak spot for Aaron. And right now he doesn't have a fill-in. So between that, 49ers D, Cortland Sutton, those are where my question marks are. So right now I'm going to lean in favor to Marvin. But again, we're talking about a 4-time champion. I say this every week. I never say AC's out of it until he actually has an L. So it could be a tight matchup, but I expect Marvin to pull this out. So that's the first matchup for next week at 1 o'clock on Sunday, which sends us to the next matchup, the nothing to see here matchup, which would be Plunkett versus Raph. Okay, we saw what Raph did last week, 182 points. We saw why he did it. I don't really think there needs to be much explanation here. Plunk's team, with Galladay not being in that lineup, we see that Gurley is a bit limited. He's only getting 14 carries the first week, not getting a lot out of the backfield. If that continues, this could easily be a landslide. So can things turn around? Yeah, there's always a chance. There was an upset last week. I happened to be on the bad side of that. So, of course, Plunkett could come out there. He's a vet. He could put it in the lineup that can win. But is it likely? Not very likely. So those are my matchup previews. We'll move on to Sunday. Who we got?
Yeah, the 4:30 game, we got Brett versus Ricky. Last week I said Ricky's, that matchup with you, Vern, I called it an upset. I said, that was kind of the upset of the week if there was to be one. I'll say this week, if Ricky wins, it won't be an upset. I'm actually picking him to beat Brett this week. I think he has a more balanced lineup. I think he has more sure weapons. I think he has players on his bench now that can easily fit into his starting lineup. He can put together, I think, a good, formidable, I'm anticipating 130, 140-point performance from Ricky this week based on what I see. Like I said, I think Brett's going to have some issues if he can't get some wide receiver help. Right now, looking at what his options are, he may need to look at the waiver wire or something. But I don't know. But until he can fix that hole, I think he's going to be an uphill battle. But I see Ricky coming out of this week 2-0.
Let's move on to the Sunday night 8:30 primetime game of the week, and that is Vernon versus Jeremy. That's Hit 'em Where It Hurts versus Pillaging Just for Fun. We selected this as the game of the week, and we're going to have a follow-up promo video for you guys to watch. I'll go first on this one. I think that both teams still have promise, a lot of promise, a ton of promise. I think that it's important to not get too high or too low based on week one results. So I think that that's the week really for everybody. where you're still filling out your team, you're still learning about your team, who you have, and really that applies to the first few weeks in my mind. It's just you hope that during this fill out process that you're getting wins and not losses. So I just think, this is the game of week 1 because this is the highest matchup in my mind of winning teams, or teams that we selected in our first power rankings, where Vern was the 2 and I believe Jern was the 5. I think the talent is there. I think that as far as the rosters right now as of Tuesday, reflect the fact that there's going to be a lot of firepower in this game. I mean, currently I'm seeing a projection of 150 to 142. I mean, you look up and down until adjustments are made, the league, and this is the match. I think that both teams, for the aspirations that they have, though, you don't want to go 0-2 because now you're fighting that uphill battle. And I think that Vern coming in was a consensus playoff, participant, at least in projections. I think that Jeremy was that team that, he's on the cusp but could easily get himself over that line. And you don't want to go 0-2 because now you're back there with the, I guess, non-elite teams of the world trying to fight your way in. You got to think about losses that you may encounter over the course of the season. So as many dubs as you want to get. And I think both have a point to prove this week. I think both are fighting for that win. So I'm going to give the nod in this game to Vernon, actually. I think that Germ has a lot of injury considerations heading into week 2. He's covered himself well for some of them. Others, he still has a question mark. I think Vern is coming in with guys that are a little annoyed with how they performed last week and want to do good this week. So that's my take. I'll turn it over to you guys. For your interpretation of their matchup.
Wrath, do you have any news of gloom for me this week? You know he does. He like, Vern, I want you to go 0-4.
Nah,
he know. Go ahead.
I think Vern, I think to your point, I think both of you guys on paper are strong. It's going to come down to injuries, right? You got the Michael Thomas situation you got to watch out for. You got to see what happens with that. Reports are he has a high ankle injury, a high ankle sprain. We know those are probably one of the worst nagging injuries that a wide receiver can have because they usually don't heal very well. It's usually season long. And he's your stud. He's your wideout one, no question. So if he becomes shaky, then, that kind of puts you in a position where now you got to rely on Odell Beckham Jr. And, there's some people that say never trust a Brown.
Only you?
only me. But listen, like I said, I think at the end of the day, I expect you to take this win out this week. I will pick you this week to win this game.
Brad kind of put the reverse blessing on you, Vern.
Right, I know. I feel it. I feel the insincerity.
Nah, real talk. I had no problem saying I thought you were taking the L last week. I was like, but this week I expect you to win this week.
All right, I hope I live up to that expectation, Raph. It's my matchup, so what am I supposed to say? Am I supposed to say I'm gonna lose? No, I don't know. I really honestly don't know. Michael Thomas really worries me. I mean, a high ankle sprain. And then just on top of that, you're going against Tampa Bay. I didn't really watch much of that game, so I'm going to have to go back and take a look at it. So hopefully, because to me, the injury happened in the fourth quarter. So what happened for the first 3 quarters is my question about Michael Thomas, particularly because it's against Tampa Bay. I don't have high regard for that secondary. So right now with that injury, he's going up against the Raiders. I really don't know what to think about that. But like you said, Jerm, he got some things he got to fight too with not having Miles Sanders possibly gone for another week, and who knows what's going to happen with James Conner. So I think I got a shot. It would not surprise me if I went 0-2. I'm going to do everything I can not to go 0-2. But I think Jeremy has just as good of a shot as me. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to the Monday night matchup, which we still hold in very high regard. Very, very high regard. We have we have Gene versus Romel, and that's the Bad News Bears versus 100 Proof. I look at this matchup, and again, the word or term horsepower comes to mind. I think that, you know, you look at Romel's team, man, and he just has so much juice there. I mean, Watson, Jacobs, Julio Jones, Darren Waller are like the standouts. And you just look at them in and of themselves. I mean, each one at their respective positions, they're a beast. I mean, Julio, we know who he is. We know what he does. Watson, I mean, honestly, with that wide out core that he has, I mean, I think we all were expecting Will Fuller to do what he did last week, so that's no shocker. But it just reinforces the notion that Watson is a winner, man, and he's going to figure out a way, even in a losing effort, to leave it all on the field, and that always translates well into getting fantasy points. You know, Jacobs is a beast, man. I mean, I'm not really holding Carolina's defense to the standard that it used to be at, but I mean, for anybody to go out in a game and get 3 touchdowns, you know, they're going to get the rock. They are a very important piece to that team. So he has that potential every week to have a monster game. And again, Darren Waller, I had him last year. I mean, I know how to do moves up and down the field. I mean, he's a mismatch every time. So Romel has the horsepower. So the question becomes, the question for me is, can Gene match that intensity? So look at Russell Wilson. That could be a wash. I mean, Wilson is the ultimate winner as well. So they may cancel each other out. Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb, and Melvin Gordon, the trio of running backs. I mean, I know from personal experience that those 3, or at least Mixon and Chubb, can do a little tap dance, a little 1-2, 1-2 on you any given Sunday. The question is, can they all put it together? Because I swear, after me and Gene played in the semifinals, and Mixon and Chubb, I mean, they played out their skulls. They went on to the finals, and it was like, well, where's the Mixon that we saw the last time? So any given Sunday with those guys, like, you just never know what you're getting. But they are stud running backs to say that for them. So, you know, Melvin Gordon, I didn't get to see the game last night, but I know he's going to do Melvin Gordon things. He's going to figure out a way to produce yards. It may not be pretty. It may not be efficient. It may not be the norms of what we think, like 4.5 yards a carry and all that, but he's going to produce. That's what he does. So, you know, D-Hop is D-Hop. He's the gift that keeps on giving. I don't care what team owns him, where he is on this earth. The dude is going to produce. So you look at the Hopkins-Julio matchup, that could be a wash potentially. You look at Gene's 3 running backs versus Mel, Josh Jacobs, Singletary, and I guess he's going to figure out a flex to put in. And honestly, guys, I see the score average, or I see the projection average, and it looks like it's going to kind of be a dead heat. I mean, if I just had to pick on this game, I would say
No.
I'm going to take Gene, man. I'm just going to take Gene.
Okay.
I'm going to take Gene because I tell you what, I don't know if Romel is going to have a third running back to counter what Melvin Gordon is going to give him. And I also look at Gene's number 2 in Tyler Lockett versus Romel will come to the dance with Mike Evans. Now, personally, I think we saw it in that game. I mean, Mike Evans, I'm not going to say he's going to get faded out. He's going to have a good season, decent season.
He ain't the Mike Evans of old.
Right, like Tom Brady ain't you know, this ain't 2008 with Randy Moss. You know what I mean? So I think Gene has a more well-rounded team on paper today. I don't think it'll be some blowout. I think it'll be very close. I think both are going to have to dig in their bag of strategy and strategical moves, that is. But I gotta give the nod to Gene, man. He has a little savvy. The man played in the finals. He knows what it takes. And I think the key ingredient here is that Gene doesn't want to go 0-2. So I think again, like, he gets more of a nod for desperation. I think that there's a certain psychological element to fantasy football as well. And I know that we all sort of have our idiosyncrasies. I know for me, I can look at a lineup or my lineup and I'm like, yeah, whatever, but I'm still going to compete. I know that losing the first game, sometimes it sort of sends you in a certain direction. I know being 0-2, 0-3, when you're considered to have a really good team, also plays a psychological effect. So I think that, you know, Gene as well as Vern in the last matchup could fall into a bag of, we have really good teams. why are we behind Plunkert? Or why do we have the same record as Plunk? Why are we down there with the Aarons of the world? So these are things when you have high hopes, you don't want to fall in that lane. Even though, plug and play and you're going to get your dubs, coming out of the gate, you don't want to have to stumble. So, I'm here to say I think both Gene and Vern have great teams. I think perfectly, consistent with the power rankings. It's just you don't want to be in that lane of teams that, you have a great team, but you're struggling. So with that being said, I'm gonna get a nod to Gene. He'll even up his record at 1-1 and move on to week 3. So that's the recap of the games of the week. I guess the last little thoughts I want to leave everybody with, and the floor is open to you guys, is just my thoughts of the week. So without getting into any names on waivers, I think that this will be the very first time that we really see movement on waivers where, if teams are interested in players, you're going to see that waiver number climb or be used or whatever. And again, there's certain psychology to that too, where it's like, do you use your pick? Do you lose your pick? Do you have a player that you're interested in? And what do you do? It feels good having a claim near the top. But as I know, like sitting on it really doesn't help or hurt. It's just you just have money that you're not using. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. There were some injuries in week 1. Germ covered himself pretty well with Benny Snell. Vern actually got an uptick with Taylor, that's how it should have been. I don't know what Frank Reich was thinking. I mean, I get it, ease him in, but the dude literally had no carries for a good part of the first half of that game. And I'm like, this is stupid. So it'll be nice to see Taylor sort of get unhinged. Marvin, I think he's going to have repeat success this week. Yeah, we play, but I think that his team is a real deal. I'll say personally, I don't want to lose in our personal matchups with him, but sometimes you just got to give a man his credit, and he's looking good. Again, the 0-1 teams, the Jones, the Verns, the Genes of the world, I want to see how they're going to rebound. I mean, these guys have a lot of heart. I want to see if it'll translate. I also want to see how they will regroup. Anybody that goes 0-2, how they'll regroup heading into week 3. I want to see if Ricky is for real now, if he's really like, yeah, I'm trying to like put these dubs up, because again, I think we've all felt like this guy is a real deal player. He's a real deal team owner. It's just a matter of him, making all of his moves and staying up to speed with everything. Because if he does, he's a weekly weekly playoff threat. In other leagues, I felt the other end of Ricky, like motivated doing this thing. I mean, I've taken some hard L's to this guy. So those are my thoughts for the week. Open it up to you guys.
For me, yeah, being that I'm 0-1, yeah, I'm definitely interested in seeing what 0-1 teams, kind of shake out and kind of make hay. Particularly me and Gene. That's no diss to Germ. I think Germ has an equally good team, but I think his options are a little bit less with the injuries. So I want to see a little bit of the grit. I think beyond that, I think man, how quickly things have changed in just one season for Marvin. So to me, looking at his team and kind of saying, hey, this is a team in my division, him and Ricky, it's like, man, this is going to be a fight. So those are teams that I think are now on my radar that previously was kind of like, okay, not saying they're not on my radar, but I wasn't looking at them as like big time threats. So now it's like, you guys are big time threats. I got to take you guys very seriously. So those are my thoughts. I think beyond that, just in real football terms, I think that there have been a lot of questions that are now raised in regards to production and who you can trust and who you can't trust. We haven't had the benefit of preseason. And so these first games is in its own way is kind of giving us a glimpse to what we may or may not see for the rest of the season. So I got a lot of questions, not only in regards to my team, but also other players on other teams. Like, okay, is this what we should expect out of, who knows, OBJ or Michael Thomas on my team? Like, whatever those people are, like on your team, right now, hopefully you're starting to get a better feel for who the guys that you're going to have to rely on to kind of get your wins for the week. So those are my thoughts on the season right now for week 2. Raph, what are your thoughts?
I think this is interesting because now I think we're going to start seeing movement. To Aaron's point, I think we've had enough time for the draft to kind of die down, to digest. Week 1's in the books. Now people are assessing their rosters, and there's always overreactions to what happens week 1, and usually moves happen because of that. But there are I expect there to be a bit of waiver activity. In our league, people trade relatively early, historically speaking. Everyone's always trying to get a leg up on the competition, so nobody wants to be last. So sometimes somebody's got to be first. So I don't know. I expect there to be a lot of movement. Particularly, I think I'm kind of interested to see what people like Brett do. Right? I mean, without making any moves, I don't see how he moves up. So I expect him to make some move, whether it's on the waiver, the trade front, or something. And then Marvin, right? I think. Looking at his team now, like he came out strong. Is this just kind of, his team is kind of young, but I want to see was that just kind of a one-off, or is this like the start of something like, hey, here I am. So I'm interested to see, strategy, right, with the detonator, as AC likes to call it.
Wow. Give him his credit.
But yeah, with the waiver system, that's a whole added element of strategy, right? Because one man's trash is another man's treasure. So who knows what chain of events and dominoes are set off just by our waiver system in this league. So all of that is really, really interesting, and I expect it to start tomorrow, 4 a.m.
Before we get out,
Bert has his phone set to 4:01.
Man, I'm programmed to wake up, man. Like, honestly, it's crazy. Like I said, psychology. So no matter what, my body wakes up. I'll be like, I'll be laying in the bed like
even if you're not picking somebody, right?
Yeah. So before we go, guys, just another 2 minutes. I want to do a quick, very quick, just word association. But I want to do it with players. So I got 4 categories. And I just want your player when I give you the phrase, all right?
Okay.
All right, so based on what you saw last week, who's most likely to repeat their performance?
Most likely
player or team?
Player.
Boy, if I had to pick a player right now, most likely to repeat their performance is probably going to be Odell Beckham Jr., which I'm not happy about.
Okay, why is that? Quick thought. Why is that?
Just real quick, I just think the Browns, right now, they look lost. I know it's Cincinnati. I know that they can make some things happen, but right now, this OBJ thing, it just doesn't look good.
Okay. Raph?
Lamar Jackson. Lamar
Yes.
doing Lamar things. I mean, we're talking about my team or just any player in general?
Any team, anybody?
So actually, I'm Russell Wilson. Because I think the one thing we've seen with Russell Wilson over the course of his career is I know, at least for me, when he first started out, it was like, all right, this dude is undersized. He's going to get killed out there. They have offensive line issues in Seattle. He's running all over the place. And it was like, well, he don't have no wide receivers. And who's going to run the ball and all this other stuff. But I've seen, he's matured into probably one of the best, if not the best, kind of, field general that we got in the league right now. And I think now that they're kind of letting him play, he's doing work. And as long as, Carroll just kind of lets him be that person, there's no reason why he can't go out and drop, Mahomes-like numbers from a fantasy perspective, week in, week out. So
I agree. I think he deserves that. That's a good call, Raph. I like that.
I'm gonna take a grab and just say gimme grab and just say Clyde Edwards. They're playing the Chargers. I know the Chargers have somewhat of a defensive line going over there, and this is to my detriment. But honestly, there's not much you can do to really stop that. It's really not. And again, I hate it because it's Marvin, you probably get a dub. But If we're gonna keep it honest, in my mind, Alaire Edwards is most likely to repeat. All right. Number 2, most likely to stall out. Meaning, I guess from whatever they did last week, we're like, to like, oh, rap.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I mean, he's a poor man's Deshaun Watson, not Deshaun Watson. The Eagles wide receiver, Deshaun Jackson. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
He's like that big play guy, but he's gonna have weeks where he's just gonna like disappear. Everybody's gonna find him for that 60-yard touchdown, Hail Mary, full of grace, all that. But I do not expect him to put a touchdown, 86 yards, and a bomb touchdown. It's not gonna
happen. Okay, Vern.
Man, this is really tough.
Thanks for the prep.
Huh?
Thanks for the prep.
I like to do things on, fresh from the hip.
Yeah, kind of like fresh reactions. Yeah, when I think about somebody that's gonna stall out, I'm like, I feel like it's already dudes stalling out before the season even started.
Maybe
I mean, it's a little late, but Joe Mixon is the guy I was thinking of. That's why I think it would stall out during the draft. But, man, if I had to think about someone who's already performed well and is likely to stall out, Father Time is undefeated. I just don't know. You know what? Here's the clear and obvious choice. Peyton Barber. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I was gonna go Adrian Peterson, but yeah, I think Peyton Barber is the quicker stall out.
Okay. For me, it's James Conner, man, and we discussed this last night. Like, I think we all love Conner. We love his story, and especially when it comes to leukemia or forms of cancer. I mean, that definitely hits home. So it's like, man, to see somebody persevere through that is very awesome. And I've had him on my teams. I love the dude, but it's just like, it just doesn't translate onto that field in terms of him being healthy. I didn't see what happened last night, but like I came home and dude was already out, man. It's like the first quarter. I was like, what in the world? And so I think he got to wear that title, man. Like he's stalling out before you even rev up the engine. So
death, taxes, and a James Conner injury.
Yeah, man. And the question is, I wonder, is it related to him having leukemia, where it's like his body just can't do or perform at that level? I've always wondered that over these last few years, but
nah, he's built like a tank, bro.
He may be built like a tank wrap, but underneath muscle. You know what I mean? Like it's all right. So, and mind you guys, we can't give the same answers for these questions. All right. Having said that, who impressed you the most coming out of week 1?
Player or team?
Player.
Who? You know what? This is gonna shock you guys, but Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
We had a lot of conversations about, Aaron Rodgers, he shouldn't have got kept. He's, pretty much a throwaway guy. And we all felt like the coach hated him. Like, this is just like gloom and doom. But this guy, man, he looks like he's on a mission. Like, he's out to prove, like, dude, I'm still that guy. And right now, I mean, he looks awesome. So I would say right now, just off of week 1, Aaron Rodgers.
Okay. Raph, do not take my guy, man. Don't take my guy. All right, go ahead.
That's I'm struggling, bro. That's a hard question. I think I'll tell you what. You go. I'm still processing here, bro.
Okay, good. Adrian Peterson. Even though Vern was going to mention him, AP, man. How? Right? Again, to my detriment. This dude, I think he ran for 90-something yards. Am I right?
He did.
How?
14. I don't know.
Busted his Achilles and came back the night like it never even happened. Just so we know, like he's healed. He's healed from things like Wolverine.
I mean, the thing is, like, I'm thinking about it. Even when they pick him up, and I was having my little, venting over here. I'm like, yeah, but what is he gonna do? Like, he gonna get in there, get like 5 carries for 5 yards. But like this man, I mean, and I don't know where Chicago's defense is at yet. But regardless, 11 men lined up on Sunday versus Detroit's 11. Their 11 was to stop you from gaining yards, and this man was able to get 90 yards. I'm like, this is crazy. It hurts me in a way because of Swift, but I'm like, this is crazy. So AP, man, I got to give it to him for a running back. I know he won't get that record from Emmett, and these teams keep giving him chances. I got to say, he isn't exactly, poo-pooing on his chances. I mean, he gets it done somehow, some way. I don't get it.
I told you, I'm a homer here, but I'm gonna go with Daniel Jones. I think
you see that picture last night?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Are you sure? Did you say Daniel Jones?
He did. So I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. Because coming into the season, it's like, all right, he had his rookie season, whatever. People were like, oh, it's the wrong draft pick. It should have been Haskins. He had his issues like every other rookie quarterback. And coming into the season, there's always 2 things I look for, right? It's, how good is, your turnover ratio, your vision, and your decision making. And how aggressive are you going to be out there? To this boy's credit, though, I think he's playing some of the most aggressive kind of quarterback play that you would expect out of a young quarterback with a team that has offensive line issues. So with that said, where other quarterbacks I think would crumble in that situation, he kind of stepped up. He had those 2 picks, and I was like, they weren't pretty. But you know what? Even then, like, he fought till the end. Like, it was a very gritty performance by a young quarterback who I will say, even though they took the L, like, it was impressive just to see that maturation process and that lack of fear. So I'll take that.
You guys know that this is the last one. You know that I guess GIF or meme with Weebay from The Wire where he's like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about, Rap? You've seen it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. What was that Weebay moment for you of last week? It can be your team. It can be whatever you want to be. But what was your moment last week? It can be a player or a team, like I said, whatever you want to be. Something related to the NFL.
I think my moment was, and I'll just be honest, it was Mostert. Because I had him in my lineup, and I'm like, yeah, my team is right now it's underperforming. I need a little pop. Let me take Mostert out. And then like probably on like the second play, he catches a pass like on an arrow route, and he breaks it for like 80 yards and a touchdown. I'm just like, word. So yeah, Mostert, yeah, that for me personally, yeah, that was the moment.
That was your Weebay moment?
Yeah.
Yeah, another hard question, bro. I mean, Malcolm Brown getting 18 touches, like what?
That helps no one.
Like, because here's the thing, right? So I think going into the offseason, and it's not like this is a player who, like, we've never really seen him before, so we don't know what he's capable of doing. Like, I'm going to go take a flyer on like, we know who he is. Like, this wasn't a surprise. And in that offense, it was like, Darrell Henderson, anybody? Like, is that not where your last draft capital kind of was invested in? Cam Akers, anyone? Like, ever heard of him? But 18 touches for Malcolm Brown. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
yeah. I think for me, I have 2, but I'll keep it very, very brief. 10 seconds apiece, I guess. The fact that Saquon Barkley could not, and I get it, Pittsburgh's defense they're coming in looking very good this year. But the fact that this man had like negative yards at one point, I was like, that was a Weebay moment. And then number 2, I wish I could have shared this with you all, but watching that Philly game up here, like in South Jersey, where it's like, these boys are on the cusp of losing. Like, they really lose, and it happened. Yeah. I'm like, Eagles. I mean, look, I hope Dallas don't lose to these boys, but for the Eagles to take that L, there's nothing like football season in South Jersey and Philly when the Eagles lose. So that made my day.
Yeah. It's like the whole community like sighs together. You can actually audibly hear it.
Bro, it's like, upsets, and you be watching the game, you're like, could this really happen? Like, Carson Wentz was throwing picks, and you're like, all right, like, whatever. But then you start to get the fourth quarter, you're like, could this really happen? And they pulled it off, man, like, with no fans in the stadium. Go figure. So anyway, those are the topics, man. I hope you guys enjoy the newsletter this week. Good luck to everybody.
Hey, AC, let me ask you one quick question. That onto the no fan thing. Do you think that's had an effect on how these teams have played? Do you think there's an element to that when you don't have fans in the stadium and that affects people's psyche, the way they play? Just all those intangibles about the game.
I think so to a point. I think that once the ball is hyped, put momentum sort of in a vacuum. Like, that's really why you need the fans, and among other things. But once that ball is hyped, man, and you got some guy across from you trying to destroy you, or you running around and you trying to get in front of somebody, me personally, I don't think that makes much of a difference. Now, all the intangibles leading up to physicality, I guess is what I'm saying, they all matter. But once, you're talking about a 290-some pound guy trying to get around you and push you, ain't no fans helping that. So
Right.
that's just my take. I could be way wrong on it, but, for the intangibles, definitely. The physicality, not so much. You either got the strength or you don't. So
yeah, I agree with you. I don't think I don't think on the field, like once you get going, like you're going. You're just worried about the guy that's in front of you. But I think there are certain players that are gamers that they've raised their level of play when you have the big lights on. So I don't know. Like, in a way, I think it affected them in a more positive way because now it just feels like practice. So it's like you don't feel as much pressure. So a lot of the players that would crack under pressure, they don't crack because it's just practice. It's just that team versus your team, no big deal. So
you don't think they have virtual hecklers in the stands?
right.
well, no, they got real hecklers. Rondo's brother got kicked out the other night. But
you saw that some dude tried to take Cam's chain after the game. So it's still you got your hecklers. They're just on the opposite team.
Right. I would say, when that chain thing happened, I immediately thought back to Crabtree and Aqib Talib. But I would say fans matter the most in basketball. That's the one. I don't know if you can get around it. I think that basketball, you need the fans, but football, I just think the physicality, like I said, you either have the strength or you don't. You either have the speed or you don't. That's just my take. So, yeah. So,
all right, fellas.
Yeah, go ahead, Vern. You take us home, Vern.
That wraps us up for week number 2. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this video. We look forward to giving y'all more of these videos next week with another power rankings, another matchup preview, and we're going to have our special feature for the game of the week. So look forward to that. Always good to see y'all. Y'all stay healthy.